Good evening, all. I'm Nimisha, and it's a great pleasure for me to introduce today's speaker, Arpit Jain, who will be presenting on the topic Top 5 Skills to Kickstart Your Analytics Career. This session will help you find out the top 5 skills required to get into analytics and how to acquire them. Moreover, you will also understand what are the skills that are required to build a high quality data science resume. Before we begin this session, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Arpit, who has over 7 years of analytics experience across multiple domains such as finance, production, automobile, and telecommunication industries. He is currently working as a data scientist at Ericsson and is utilizing his domain knowledge in data analysis, business intelligence, and data integration. Finally, I'd like to suggest all our viewers to post your relevant queries in the chat section. And towards the end of the session, handpicked relevant queries will be answered. So stay tuned and over to you, Arpit. Hello, Arpit. We cannot hear your voice. I think there is some technical issue. Let's just figure that out. Just a minute.
Am I not audible?
Now you're audible, Arpit. You can start with the presentation again. Really sorry for the technical issue. We'll start again with the slide. Okay, Arpit, you can go.
Okay, thank you so much. So, hello everyone. I hope you all are safe and sound in this COVID situation. So, as Nimisha was explaining, we're going to talk about what are those key skill sets from where you can start your analytics journey and what could be the right step you can acquire them. Right. So, let's proceed. So, before proceeding further, I would like to first introduce myself. That from where I started my journey, uh, what challenges I faced, where did I feel that I need to make a career switch, and then maybe what forced me to do that, and then where I am currently. Right. So, I started my journey in 2013 from where I graduated from Satyabama University, Chennai, and I was an electronics and communication graduate. I was a silver medalist from my college, and with God grace, I was placed in the college placements itself. I joined my first company, Wipro Technologies, in the same year, 2013, as a project engineer. And soon after, when I joined Wipro Technologies, I got my first client, and it was a banking client from London. So, as I started my journey over there, I was a junior administrator in the portfolio. So, I had a tough times initially. I had to learn a lot of things because I didn't know how actually the company environment works. So, as the time flied, I learned a lot of things, and I figured out that there are other teams also involved in analytics profile. So, at that time, it was credit risk analysis. That's where I started, gaining more interest in analytics profile, and I figured that maybe I could be the right person to work on the same domain. So while the time I was working with Pro Technologies, I did some online courses. It was on Coursera, a few courses I did there from analytics, basic ones, just to understand how exactly it works. And eventually, during my course in Wipro Technologies itself, I was exposed to some of the use cases in analytics, but not really up to great extent. And that's where I felt that I need to have a more exposure towards the same domain where I can, widen my horizons and then maybe try to understand different things altogether in a better perspective. That is where I joined IBM Technologies in 2015 as a senior analyst. So I was working in a cloud domain there. I was there for quite some time, and I realized that there are certain other things apart from what I was doing in Wipro Technologies, which could be really useful for analytics domain. And I got an opportunity to work in different sector at this time. So I was working with financial sector in Wipro Technologies with the banking domain, but here in IBM, I was working on a cloud domain. It was purely into requirement analysis and understanding how the virtual machines are getting delivered. Right. So I was there for around some time in IBM, and that's where I figured out that there's a huge potential in analytics domain, and where I can excel, and where if I really understand how the domain works, I can really grow faster in this. Right. So that is when I realized in 2017 that I need to again make a move and try to get a better profile in which I can still explore my interest and my strong area. So that's where I joined Michelin Tires. It's one of the European tire giants, and I joined there in the research and development domain as a data scientist. I was a research scientist there. So I was working on an automobile industry this time. So here my objective was again to identify what could be the right product and at what time we should launch it in the market so that we can have the perfect gain. Not only that, there are n number of use cases which I figured out could be available in the automotive industry as well. So while I was working with Michelin Technologies, I figured out that I need to actually understand what I'm working for, right? So that's what I figured, that although I'm working in this domain, I need to actually understand the core concepts of analytics. And I started exploring what could I do, what should I do in this case, and I figured that the course which is there in Great Lakes for business analytics could be the right platform for me. So while working with Michelin Tires, I joined Great Lakes in one of the weekend courses for business analytics to understand the core concept. So although I was working in this domain, I wanted to understand it from the core perspective so that I can have a better understanding of what I'm doing. Right. So I was working with Michelin Tires in the weekdays, and the weekends I had my classes in Great Lakes. So that got over in year time. And after the course got over, I was still working with Michelin Tires, but I figured out that now maybe I'm standing at some other level. I can do even better in my life. And I tried exploring other opportunities, and that's where I joined Ericsson in 2019 as a senior data scientist. And I'm currently working with Ericsson itself. Now, in Ericsson, I'm working in the telecommunication domain, which is again a different domain altogether. But since I'm a data scientist, you all know data is everywhere, so I'm good here. So that's a brief intro about me. And now let's proceed for today's agenda, what we're going to discuss today. So at first, we're going to start with why data science? Like, who are these data scientists and why are they so hyped? What are they doing so that people are talking about them? We're going to discuss about these things. Right after this, we're going to talk about what are the key skill sets which going to make you a good data scientist, or maybe you can start your career in analytics field. These are having an analytics mindset, coding, visualization understanding, your machine learning concepts, and at last, definitely the domain knowledge. So, and when we are done with all these things, we're going to have the open Q&A forum where we can discuss about your career transition questions, your opportunities, and whatever things you want to discuss. Right. So let's start. Now, the important thing is, who are data scientists? Right. So we need to understand who are these people who people are talking about, right? So as you can see on the screen, they are these smart people who actually works on the data, which is almost everywhere. They work on this data, they analyze these data, and then they help the business take the decision based on the predictions and the inferences they make from these data. As simple as that. Now we need to understand what kind of data, what kind of inferences, what kind of predictions, what could be the right decisions. There are a number of questions here, right? So first we need to understand that every single domain has their own different set of data available. So we have the data, which is the fuel for now these industries, which is available everywhere. But but just to inform you that people have started realizing the importance of data these days. So although data was available like from the very beginning, but now there are these smart people, the data scientists, who have started taking the worth of these data, which is already available, right? So we are those people who are working on the already available data to help the business take the right decisions, right? So now our job is even more critical because we are directly in line with the business to help them what can make them how we can support the business. It could be based on the revenue, it could be based on the profits, it could be based on even the employees, right? It could be anywhere. So as you can understand, since data is almost everywhere, there could be n number of problem statements which the data scientist can solve, right? So the data could be of like we can have n number of problem statements as we discussed. So let's discuss about those problem statements. So if I talk about like some of those problem statements, the prime ones could be I have listed here. It could be a recommendation problem. A recommendation, as in you must have seen a Netflix movie recommendation when you go online or browse movies, right? So it based on your past interest, you see the recommendations for what movies would be better for you. Similarly, online platforms, your shopping recommendations and other stuff. So recommendation is one of the problem statements on which data scientists can work on. And now we have to understand for recommendation, there'll be a different set of data for solving this problem set. We have to identify what could be the right data set for recommendation problems, and then the respective analysis, your inferences, and then the decisions, your outputs maybe, right? And then we can have a prediction kind of a problem. Prediction as in it could be prediction of your classes, it could be prediction of a variable, it could be prediction of a number, anything, right? So again, for this problem statement, we have to identify what could be a right set and then the corresponding processes. We can also have anomaly kind of a problem where we know what is the expected range of values for a particular KPI in such case. And then if a particular value is beyond my boundaries, then I'm going to say it is an anomalous number, right? Which is out of my expected boundary range. So it could be, again, identifying the when your metric is going to be degraded, or in a telecommunication domain, if I have to talk about, then we can say that, okay, this tower or this network is going to be down in the next 4 hours because I see that there's an anomalous behavior in a particular KPI, right? So likewise, we need to understand what could be the right data set for these kind of problems, eventually in the analysis and the inferences. Then we can also talk about the fraud problems. So in banking, you must have seen a loan fraud or a credit card fraud, or maybe a person who is not paying the bills on time, right? So there could be a number of fraud problems, which is again industry specific. We can look for a particular set of data set in which we can solve this kind of problem. And also we can work on segmentation problems where we need to identify what set of people are falling under a particular cluster so that I can make my product more visible to them and then I can get more profit, right? So segmentation, identifying the right people at the right time. So these again are the problem statements on which data scientists can work on. And then if I have to take about the supersets, like not going into detail of each and every use cases, we can have a classification kind of a problem, we can have regression, we can have product development, lifecycle management, A/B testing. And trust me, this is not the only list. Because as I told you, data is everywhere. We can look for any problem which we can solve with the help of data. And at the end, we also have the industry specific use cases. Like if I'm going to talk about your banking customer, if I talk about the finance side, we have a number of use cases there. Like as I was talking about a fraud problem, maybe a segmentation, maybe your product development or anything. And then if you talk about a healthcare domain, we have again a number of opportunities there. We can look for maybe what medicine you're going to prescribe for what could medicine could be a better solution for your ailment, and then identifying the right disease at the right time. It could be, and you must have heard about AI technologies coming in these days to identify a brain tumor at the right time, right? So there are n number of use cases dependent on the industry specifics as well. So we are not stopping anywhere. Data scientists are the smart people who take data which is available almost everywhere, and they can use this data to have a better inputs in terms of decision making for the business leaders. And as Josh Wells has rightly said that a person who is better at statistics than any software engineering and who is actually better than software engineering than any statistician. So basically, a good data scientist is the one who is actually good in statistics and can also take lead in doing the software engineering works to make your work available to the live production environment. So it's going to be the right mixture of your statistics and your software engineering knowledge. So it has to be a balanced understanding of your both of these fields to be called as a good data scientist. Right. So now important thing is what are these key skill sets from where we can understand that yes, if I have these five skill sets, we're gonna say that maybe we can start a career in analytics. Right. So let's talk about that. So at first, the most important thing is to understand that we need to have a fair understanding of the data. For this, we need to have the analytics mindset with us. Right. So what does this analytics mindset mean? You must have heard about data wrangling, data cleaning, data preparation, feature engineering. Trust me, they are more or less a synchronous word, right? So at the end of the day, the whole objective of these steps is to actually understand your data, do the EDA, do the analysis, and figure out what is the right metric or what are the right details needed for your model, right? So for this, we need to have the eye for the smallest details possible we can have. We need to go back and drill down on our data which is available and try to find what are the hidden insights available in these. We need to understand the different data structures for that. For example, in any business case, it is not always true that you'll get the data in the form of a CSV or an Excel file. It could be a case that you get the data in a raw format, which could be an XML, which could be a PDF, which could be a doc file, right? So we need to understand what are the different data structures are available for my data set. Like you can also talk about your structured and the non-structured data, right? So in unstructured data, we can also talk about my voice data, my video data, my images, my frames, and everything, right? So there are different data available, different type of data structures for different kind of problems. So we need to keep our eye and ears open to understand what kind of data would be feasible, what kind of data is actually good for my problem statement. So for that, definitely we need to have the eye for the smallest details and then to understand what could be the right data structure for my problem statement. And then post that, once we have the data in place with us, we need to do the data cleaning. You must have heard that data cleaning actually takes 80% of our effort, and trust me, it's true. Data cleaning is the most important step for any model preparation, for any business problem statement in that case, I would say. So for that data cleaning, there's no fixed rule as such. For that, every data has their own insights and their own patterns, which is hidden. So you have to do the analysis. You have to figure out, for example, if it's a missing data, right? So you know that if my mean imputation is good, if my median is good, or my mode is good, or maybe taking some group buys are good statement. So it is totally subjective to you. And to you, basically, you are a data scientist now. You need to understand that, okay, for this data, this could be the good metric. So you have to impute it and then check how my data is behaving. What are the hidden insights again? What are the cross relations between my different variables? So that data cleaning step takes time. You need to understand your data first before doing it, right? So to have that in place, you need to have the analytics mindset, which is very, very important. And at last, there's the feature engineering and then the hidden insights. Definitely, we have talked about. For feature engineering, again, it's a different ball game altogether. Feature engineering, we call it as like if you create any extra variable out of the box. It could be based on your business income. It could be based upon your business understanding. It could be based upon your own insights by checking the interaction between two different variables, right? So it again depends on you along with the business. So you can create extra variables if you feel that the overall variance is not getting explained by the data set, right? So to have all of these in place, we say that if you really feel that you have the eye for the smallest details and all of the other things for cleaning and then the EDA hidden insights, then I would say yes, you have the analytics mindset. So that's going to be your starting point for having I would say, a kickstart in your career in analytics. Right. So after having the analytics mindset, I would say the next important thing is having the understanding of data visualization. You should know the importance of visual statistics. Trust me, whenever you do an analysis, always visual statistics speaks for it itself. If you plot a good graph, if you can explain, at least I would say that like any graph is self-explanatory in itself. if you can show your management that yes, my particular product is giving me highest profit in a particular region, right, from a scatter plot maybe, or maybe a bar graph. So that is in itself is speaking. If you simply show them the numbers, definitely it is having a lesser impact. So the visual insights, which I believe for any problem statements, give you a better visibility for yourself as well. You understand the data pretty well. So having the right plot types, understanding what are the different plot types for that. We have a number of plots available. It could be box plot, violin plot, count plot, factor plot, anything, right? So we need to first understand what are the different plots available for us to understand what is the visual statistics, and then what are the uses of these plots, when to plot which one, right? So you need to understand that. That is the smallest detail which we need to first understand to have the powerful insights from the data, which is going to give you more flexibility, more freedom, and more, I would say, in-depth understanding of the data. So that when I say I have the analytics mindset, it's not actually the analytics mindset in itself. It's having the visualization understanding also in place. When we do the visual analytics, when we do the data visualization on any platform, be it R or Python, anywhere, it actually gives us the hidden relations in a more clear or influencing way. We can understand what are the powerful insights from these data, right? So the exact trend between my different variables, the what are my cross relations, so we can understand from this visual statistics. It will also help you to understand how my products are placed in different sectors, as I was talking about. For example, if I say that I have a product A which is actually selling better in a region one, so then I can understand what is the reason behind that. There could be other factors which are involved. Then we can say what is the cross relation between them. Maybe we can plot a scatter plot. Maybe we can check with the box plot what could be the right values, right? Then what are the price ranges I'm putting for these products. So visual statistics give me the freedom to understand how my particular variable, how my data set is behaving on an overall persona, right? So that is again one of the key skill sets to work in analytics. Post this, definitely now we have realized that we have done our analytics, we have done our data cleaning, we have seen the data patterns and have the insights with us. Now what? Now we need to work on the prediction model. We need to work on creating the models for our better futures. We are making the models for the for even for could be any problem statement. But basically, we are going to help the business, right? Like for example, prediction cases. We need to work on the machine learning algorithm for prediction, right? So for this machine learning, we again have like set of algorithms in place. For this, again, the wholehearted effort needs to go here. Like we need to understand what, why, and how these machine learning algorithms are working. Like for example, if I talk about say random forest, being a data scientist, it is your wholehearted duty to understand what is the maths behind the random forest, right? You need to understand at what step how the bootstrap sampling is happening, how the data is getting distributed in my trees, how the out of bag error works. So there are n number of concepts, and all of these individual machine learning algorithms have been built beautifully. There is a logic behind the algorithm, which being a data scientist you are supposed to know. So the third and the one of the key skills that I would say again here is the machine learning understanding. So being a data scientist, your job is not only limited to do the analysis, but also you are supposed to work on building the models. And you can not only build the models by simply copying the code from Stack Overflow. You need to first understand what you are building, what are you going to expect from the model as an outcome. How are you going to infer the results, right? So that is again dependent on what is your problem statement, what is your objective. You need to understand how my model is behaving, right? That's again your machine learning understanding will come handy, right? So now the fourth part, I would say definitely now we have all the analytics mindset in place. We have the data visualization skill sets. We know how machine learning algorithm works, but how are we going to implement this, right? There has to be some platform where you can implement this. You cannot just simply think in your mind, right? So and at the end of the day, you have to show it to your management. You cannot just think of it and then just wish that the things will happen, right? It cannot be like that. You have to implement it somewhere. So definitely, yes, coding is important. So trust me again. So I have seen a lot of time that people are scared that I'm not from a coding domain, I'm not from a technical background. How I can take up coding. So to answer you this question, trust me, data science coding expectation is little different from a Java developer or an application developer coder, right? So for data science coding expectation is to have your work has to have your problem statement solved. Like If you're working on a Python notebook or if you're working on a Python platform, then in that case we have set of I would say handy libraries available like pandas, numpy, and some others, so where you can actually do your data treatment nicely, I would say. But again, definitely to work on these libraries, you need to have the basic coding understanding, right? So whenever I always recommend that whenever you start your career in data science, right? So never worry about coding. It's just a start of your phase, right? So you can always take up some beginner level courses, and then you can try to understand how the basic data structure of any coding language behaves. There are in the market right now we have different platforms on which the companies work on. It could be either Python or SAS, or maybe there are some others as well. But again, we need to understand in with the company in which you are working on, maybe you are planning to work, or maybe you are getting hired for. You need to understand what is the platform on which they are working, right? So it is not always mandatory that you need to know R so that you'll be hired for a particular organization. It depends on what the company is actually working on, right? So accordingly, you have to accommodate yourself. There's no choice there. So again, it depends on the company's flexibility. So if I talk about the coding level expectation, so definitely coding is required, but need not worry. It's just the way we can solve our problems on a day-to-day level. Because at the end of the day, you have to code. You have to implement things, right? So and coding is the only way in which you can implement, right? But again, the expectation of coding from a data science perspective is not people expect from a Java developer. So we need to have the basic coding sense so that we can get our work done, right? At last, definitely, I would say domain knowledge. But I would say it's not at all a mandatory skill set. People will ask me questions here again. So I'll tell you why. So the important thing is data is everywhere, right? So being a data scientist, actually you're open to any industry. Like you have seen my profile, I have worked with banking customer, I have worked with telecommunication, now I was in production environment, I was in automobile. So I've seen the industry. So the thing is, data is almost everywhere. And for me, when I joined any organization, it was the first day for me. I didn't know what a telecommunication industry is, and I didn't know how they behave, how they work in the background. I still don't know what are the core concepts of things, but I'm still learning, right? So this is actually, if you know the domain, if you know how exactly it works, definitely you'll have an edge in your model. People always say that you need to know the specific problem statements. It will give you an advanced skill sets in your model building. But if you are starting your career, I would definitely recommend that whichever industry you are in, you should focus on that industry, and then you can start building your career if you're trying to make a switch in your career, right? So it's always good to have the domain knowledge in place, because it'll give you the flexibility to understand the data even better. You will not need anyone's help in that case, because you know how these maybe variables are working, what are the meaning of different variables, because there are industry specific variables as well, right? As we talk about. So for that to have a better understanding of them, we need to understand how my industry behaves. So that is again very important. So in short, if I have to talk about, these are my 5 key skill sets which I believe are important to have to just kickstart your career in analytics. Analytics mindset, visualization, machine learning, coding, and then at last domain knowledge. Right now, again, I will tell you, after all this, if you cannot communicate your inferences, if you cannot pass on the same confidence which you have in your model to your management, you're good for nothing, right? So a good data scientist is the one who can interact with the business partners and colleagues in order to strategize and discuss the results freely. So you have to interact with your business partners, you have to share your inferences, you have to make them realize that actually your model, your things in which you are working on, going to help them in their business, right? So for that, communication is very important. You have to communicate. You're not building anything for yourself, you are building it for the company, right? So at the end of the day, you have to communicate your results and convince your business leaders with your results, right? How we can build them? Again, there are a set of few things which you can do. Just a quick overview, I'll talk about it, in which I believe that you can improve your communication skill sets. For this, first is active listening. Trust me, active listening is one of the key things which I believe is important. Am I audible? Okay.
Yes, yes. You can continue,
Okay.
Arpit. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so as I was talking about how we can improve our communication skills. So first, I would say active listening. Trust me, is one of the key skill sets which people try to ignore it, right? So active listening is very, very important for a good data scientist. So you have to engage with the other person in discussion. You have to understand what is the requirement. You have to ask the relevant questions. You cannot simply just jump into solving the business problem without knowing the business statement, right? So you have to develop the active listening skill sets in you. You have to understand what is the mission statement for your business. You have to ask the relevant questions to the right people at the right time, right? So you have to develop your active listening skills, which actually will help you to develop the mutual understanding between you and your management. And definitely at the end of the day, you will realize that there is a confidence which is actually building between in your senior management within you, right? So that's going to help you in a longer run. So active listening is one of the key skill sets from which you can say that yes, we're going to have good communication skills. Post this, I would say yes, understanding business is again very, very important. As I was mentioning, that different verticals will have different priorities and different mission statement, right? For example, if you're working as a data scientist for a marketing team, then for them the mission statement is to have the better product visibility, right? And suppose if you're working with the finance team, then they might look for budgeting of the revenues, right? So different verticals will have different mission statement, different priorities. So we need to understand what is the business, what is the use case, what is the importance of my problem statement, right? So definitely having the right details at the right time will help you clarify the business objective, and it will help you to reduce the conflict in future. So if you know for what you're working, what is the objective, how you're going to help the business, then definitely having all these details right at the time is going to help you in the longer run again, right? Third is your presentation skills. Trust me, again, this is one of the very, very important key skill sets. For this presentation skills, I would only say one word: confidence. So your confidence is your key, right? Even if, trust me, even if you have built like really bad model, but you still believe that having 60% of precision gonna save $10 million. By some case, you have done your analysis and you figured out that by having 60% of precision, we are still able to save $10 billion for the company. You are still good. It's not mandatory to have 90% or 95 precision all the time. It's it's actually important to understand how I'm going to help the business, and with certain stats you can help your business to understand what is the importance of your model. Don't just simply blindly go with like or get disappointed that I'm getting 60% of precision for my any model case. You have to understand what are the stats behind it, how you're helping your business, what are the numbers, right? So based on that, you can have the convincing skills in you. You should have the convincing skills in you with the results which you already have, right? So from the model, you need to understand what are the stats and how you're going to help the business. That confidence you need to show in front of your business leaders with the help of presentation which you're going to make, right? And as I was talking about, visual stats are very, very important. So instead of writing a lot of things in your presentation, you should better stick towards having some visual graphs from your analysis. So maybe you can show some numbers there in the form of graph, right? So the visual impact from slides are way more than having some numbers over there directly, right? Definitely having a better organized view for this is gonna give you a better impression in terms of your overall visibility in the organization. So that's gonna help you. After this, I would say there's again one thing is never rush into anything. So stop, take a pause, and think what you're going to do. Rushing into things is very bad. You need to understand that if you are talking to your senior management in terms of any communication regarding your results, regarding your any queries, you need to understand what you're talking to a business leader. You cannot simply reply them on the emails without even re-verifying your details, right? You might miss an attachment, you might do a grammar mistake, you might miss out the important details, right? So always doing a quick check before sending out the responses is very, very important. Always take a pause and understand the gravity of the situation, right? So we always from an industry perspective, I would say always a quick response can lead to trouble, right? So you have to take a pause and understand how exactly things are, what is the gravity of the situation, and help your communication skills in that way. Your information should be crisp, detailed, and reliable, right? And at last, I would say you need to practice being open on the floor. You have to make yourself visible. You have to make your body language talk, right? You have to build networks across team. Because as I mentioned, that data scientists are the other people who work on the data, right? So they are not restricted to any vertical. They're not restricted to any particular domain. So we are the people who cross across domains, across teams, right? So we have to build our own networks. We have to build the confidence. We have to talk to people regularly. We have to understand that if I present something, then they have to really understand. They should feel what I'm going to say, right? So you have to make your presence visible. So that is again a very very important thing. Whenever we say that, if in an organization also, I would say that people always say that if you're visible to your manager, you're always there. If you're not visible, you're not there, right? So you have to make your presence really visible to your not only the team, I would say the entire flow. So you have to make yourself available. You have to talk to different people. You have to make your networks. You have to build the confidence among other teams as well. So that only way which can happen is by being by making yourself available and talking to other people, right? So having these right skill sets in you gonna develop the skills, again the key skill sets which are going to talk about the communication. So you have everything handy with you, but definitely at the end of the day you have to communicate with other people to make it visible in your industry, to make it deployed in the business. So for that, communication skills are very important, right? So at last, I'm going to give you an overview of how a solution works for any data science profile, for any problem statement, a general overview of what are the methodologies, what are the things which we follow, so that we can have a problem statement deployed in a solution, right? So at first, you must have aware that we have a data collection process in which we take the data, we understand what is the business problem, what are the data sources, and based on that, based on the requirement, we do what could be the right set of data for my problem statement. We understand what could having what details can actually help me in solving the problem. So data collection is always the first step in which we try to understand what data is actually useful for my business problem. So for that, understanding business is very, very important. What is the problem statement, right? And once we have done the data collection, comes the next step, which is very, very important, data preparation steps, right? So when I was talking about 80% of effort, so basically these two processes, data collection and data preparation, is going to take you more than 80% of your efforts, right? So being a data scientist, you have to make sure that whatever data you are preparing for your model is actually an ideal one, right? For that, you need to do the analysis, you need to do the data treatment, you need to do the feature engineering. So all of these details with the mind with the with having the eye of the minute details, right? So you have to find out the hidden patterns in your data, you have to do the data cleansing in place, you have to find out what were the right strategies for that, right? Again, there are n number of things which we can do for data preparation. There is no fixed rule. Again, it's all depends on the person who is working on that data. You know the data better than what I know, right? Because you are the person on ground. You know how the data behaves, how what are the patterns. So for that, you need to do the EDA very nicely. You have to understand what are the hidden patterns, and then based on that, you have to prioritize what all things you can do to prepare your data for the model, right? And once your data is prepared for your model, we have the model building phase in place. So for this, definitely, again, for any problem statement, we have a number of I would say algorithms available. So again, question comes, what algorithm is good for me, right? I would answer it such a way that it depends on what is your problem statement. Like for example, if you're looking for a good prediction outcome in terms of your metric, like could be precision or recall, right? So in that case, I would say you can go for advanced algorithms, maybe an XGBoost algorithm in that case. Or in some scenarios, we also look for what could be the right features, or what are the driving influences from my model. So maybe I would look for some tree diagram where I could define some rules, right? So maybe a random forest or decision tree model would be a right one for me, right? So there's again no fixed rule for anything. It's just like you have to figure out what is the right model for your data, right? So for that, you need to do the pre-checks, identify the right metric, what you're going to look for, like it could be precision, recall, or if it may be RMSE in the continuous variable case. So you have to identify what could be the right metric for your data set. And then based on that, you do multiple iterations. So you never get the best model. There's actually no best model. You never get a good model, I would say, at the very first instance. You have to try multiple things. You have to try with different combinations. It could be with the model, it could be based with the variables, it could be interactions, it could be anything, right? So you have to try different iterations from different models, and then you settle on something which you believe that I am able to solve my business problem. I am able to meet the requirement, and all the pre-checks are done, and I'm having the best metric I could have, right? So this is how the model building phase is, and you have to work on your own data set likewise. Now, once the model building phase is done, the important thing is communication, as I was talking about earlier, which is again a very, very crucial stage. Now, assume that you have built a model which is there in your own system on your own personal laptop. How are you going to make sure that this the model which you have built going to help the business, right? You have to make sure that whatever you have built is actually helping the business. You have to communicate your results with the business leaders so that they can understand the importance of your model, right? And based on that they can take the right decision, right? So definitely for that you need to have I would say confidence in you to share your results with the business leaders, understand what is the use in the business, and then based on that you have to you have to make sure that the same thing has been applied in the business, it has been deployed, right? So you have to understand the benefit and the application for the particular problem statement which you have solved. Based on this, based on your own understanding, based on your result, you have to convince your management. So that for that, communication phase is again very, very important. Now at last I would say you have convinced your business leaders then yes that whatever model you have built is going to solve the business problem and it's going to help the business. So for that now the business has to take the decision to implement it, right? Now we have all the right things in place. Now the important thing is we have to make sure that whatever we have built is going to help my business. So for that we have to implement our solution in the production live feed, right? So we have to make sure that whatever we have built is actually getting deployed in the customer network or maybe your internal network, whatever problem statement you are solving, right? So for that, we need to understand what is my production environment, what are my live feeds for the data, so that we have the right software engineering techniques in place so that we can have the realistic view of my problem statement. We can get the things done on a real time basis, right? So like for example, if I'm predicting a particular KPI to be down in next 4 hours, which is a live feed, right? So for every hour, I'm tracking it with a live feed. I have a pipeline set up so that there's an automated UI where all the predictions are coming in at the right time, and we can a person like me as an end user, I can see that there's a UI. I can see okay, a particular site is going to be down after 4 hours, right? Crazy. So then we can take the decision. For we have the 4 hours of window to take the decision, right? So likewise for every business solution we have to make sure that it is not staying with your own system, within your own system. It is actually getting deployed in the business, right? So that is very, very important. So once we are done with all of these steps, then we can say that yes, we are now at the stage where we have understood what is the business problem, and then we have provided the right solution for it, and the same thing has been implemented in the business overall solution, right? I hope I made sense. So that's it from my side. I hope you all are clear with this. So any questions are more than welcome at this stage.
Thank you, Arpit. That was a really wonderful session. So
Thank
we'll
you.
move on to the questions from the viewers. All right. So the first question is from Elvis. So he has asked that he is a BCom graduate and wants to pursue a career in analytical job. And he has 4 years of experience in human resources. So will he be considered as a fresher? And how can I get an analytical job?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a very good question, I would say. Now we need to understand that data scientist is just a designation, right? So, and apart from that, we need to understand how the industry also behaves. So, more time you spend in any industry, you actually understand that how the company is behaving, how the organizational structure are in place, right? So, the 4 years of HR experience, I would say, is more of an industry experience for you, right? So you have to, if you want to make a switch in your career, definitely for you having the right key technical skill sets for that, you need to understand that that will be there from Great Lakes or whatever, from wherever you want to learn your understanding. It could be online as well. But from an overall perspective, if I talk about the 4 years of experience, is going to be more of a soft skills perspective because you've spent 4 years and you have understand how the industry works. You have to realize that within those 4 years, you have gained other a lot of things, like for example, leadership skills, right? You might have gone into a certain situation where you felt that you leaded the team and then you came out of with an innovative solution. You might have interacted with multiple clients at the same time, so you know how to handle multiple clients, which is again a key skill set, which is talking about the communication skills in analytics, right? So you actually, when you spend some time in industry, it's not only the technical skill set, it's also the soft skills which you develop, right? So these skill sets definitely is gonna help you a lot in your further analytics domain. But if I simply talk about your technical skills, then yes, in that scenario, you have to be very sure of what problem statements you have solved in analytics. So if you have not done any course or if you have not done anything, so definitely you'll not be considered as a good employee in that case, because you need to have a fair technical understanding from data science. And for other aspects, you can use your 4 years of experience for more of a soft skills perspective. But
All
that should not be
right.
a stopper for you.
All right. Thanks, Harpreet. The next question is from Muhammad Suhaib. So he's asking, does understanding the problem statement decide a person's skill with the wrangling? Data wrangling.
I would say for that, yes, definitely. So, as I was mentioning, having the eye for the minute details is very important. Active listening definitely is one of the key skill sets. If you don't know what is a problem statement, if you don't realize the importance of your mission, what you're going to do, then definitely you might be looking for the wrong things in your data set. Like for example, if I simply taken, so if I'm looking for any product development in some case, right? So I'm going to identify what product would be right for my particular set of cluster people, right? That is the problem statement. And if I realize that though I'm looking for only for a not only for this segment, I'm looking for a broader forum, right? So you've missed the characteristics of that particular cluster for which your business wants you to do, right? So you're looking for the broader forum, which is your overall population. You missed the crisp detail where they said that okay, you're looking for only for region A, not for the overall population. So having the right information at the right time actually gives you the freedom to understand how exactly for that particular objective your data is behaving. So for that, yes, having the right information at the right time is very important.
All right. So the next question is from Kamaljeet Singh. He's asking, is the skill set for business analyst and data science identical?
Okay, so I would say not really. So business analyst for me, I'll tell you very frankly. So as I've observed that multiple designations for data science domain is actually pretty subjective to organizations as well. So you might be called as a data analyst, and you at the end of the day you might be doing a data scientist job, right? So one organization might call you as a business analyst, but at the end of the day they'll expect you to work on the business models as well, predicting model and all the things, right? So I just don't go with the designation. Designations are pretty subjective and misrepresented in multiple organizations. It because every organization will have certain set of designations available within their own hierarchy, right? But again, on a broader perspective, I would say that business analysts are the people who work on the data analysis part. They talk to business, they do the understanding, they do the data analysis part, and they communicate their results with their management. So in some sense, I would say yes, software engineering is not involved in that case where you are not actually working on implementing of a solution. Rather, you're working on the analysis part and then communicating your results. So that's what business analysis do. But again, that's subjective to your organization and which what the expectation is.
All right. The next question is from Hemant Kumar. What are the tools and languages to learn to become a data scientist as a beginner? And where to start and how to achieve the goal to become a data scientist?
Okay, that's again a good question. So, as I was explaining in my presentation, the five key skill sets, right? So, always to start your career, you need to understand what are the foundations for that particular domain, right? So, if you're making your career in analytics, so then you need to understand what are the basic foundations of analytics. So, basic foundations for anything, like for example, data cleansing, like what I was talking about, the analytics mindset, right? So, and even for the machine learning algorithms, so everything falls behind your statistics, right? So everything starts with stats. So the basic thing which you can look for is understanding stats. Statistics is very, very important. You need to understand the stats for all the minute details. That is the first thing we should look for. Second is definitely implementation, right? So coding is important, but again, as I was explaining, you are not supposed to go very deep in the coding in sense of you need to understand that you're not actually developing an application as such, right? So it's more of your getting your data science work done. So you can be a little smart here when you're looking for a start in your career. Definitely, I won't say to for an advanced level. For starting your career, definitely you should look for the basic patterns in your coding sense, whatever tool or whatever things you are looking for, maybe Python or R. So for that, understand what are the basics, how exactly the data structures are in that particular coding language, and try to understand the basic packages like pandas, numpy, right? So always your starting point for any Python language, for any data scientist, right? So having the stats mindset with you and then understanding the implementation, then your next thing is to practice, right? So gather more and more data from online. It is available everywhere. You go to Kaggle, any website from where you can just download the data and then start analyzing your data on the real time basis, right? So when you practice things, right, so you actually come across a lot of problems, so which is actually not, you might have not come across in your theoretical understanding, right? So which is actually there in the practical exposure. So I will always urge you to look for, first understand what are the core basics of stats, and then look for your implementation of things in by doing a lot of practice on Python. So that should be a way to go.
All right, thanks. And the next question is from Chandan. So he's asking, can one integrated MBA student with finance specialization build his career in data science?
Why not? Definitely. I mean, there's no stoppage for any data science profile. So definitely now I would say that now you have an exposure of a finance domain, right? So when I was talking about domain
Yes.
knowledge, one of the key skill sets. So you have the key skill sets in you. You have the finance understanding, which I might not be knowing if I go to a finance industry, right? So definitely you should leverage that understanding which you already have. And then, so I was talking about the soft skills, right? So you know the business, you know the I would say the business sense behind the finance domain, and then once you acquire the data science technical skill sets, merging these two things, which gonna make you the right and ideal employee for the organization. Trust me on that. Right. So definitely there's no stoppage. You can look for a career in that phase. So but the thing is you have to prioritize things and you have to understand what could be the right things for you. First is understanding how you can utilize the business which you already have, the finance understanding from MBA, and then acquiring the right technical skill sets from data science. The mixture of both gonna be your ideal way to go.
All right. So this question is again from Mohammed Shoaib.
Mhm.
So, would you recommend accounting professionals like me to take up a course on data science, maths, and statistics prior to taking up a higher level data science course? He wants to
Uh,
know, yeah, he wants to know
yeah.
if he has to take up a course on a data science, maths, and statistics before taking the data science course.
I would say that is again subjective to your level of understanding, how you can grasp things. Okay, so let me be very clear here. As I was mentioning, statistics is one of the key things for all of the data science concepts, right? So definitely, if you know stats in a better way than any other candidate, then definitely you actually have an edge over them, right? But it does not mean definitely going to a data science course is not does not say that you need to have a mathematical degree to start your career with, right? It's not a mandatory thing. So if you can grasp things based on data science objectives, based on data science stats requirement, then definitely you can start your career as is. But if you feel that you need to have a more strong core base, which is definitely not, I would say, a mandatory thing, but still, if you feel that you need to have a better, understanding for maths before starting the data science career, definitely you should do that. But as an overall general perspective, I would say that it should not be a mandatory thing. You can still look for a data science course and then look for the right details and then try to grasp the requirement based on data science profile, right? So because see, stats is again, I would say, or when you do some course on maths, right? So it's an ocean of things, right? Which might or sometimes might not be useful for data science, right? So we have to be a little smart here because, as I was mentioning, we are the smart people, we're the smart data scientists, right? So for that case, I would say we have to prioritize what could be the right things for you, right? So in that case, you have to understand what are the requirements of stats in perspective of data science, and then based on that, I think you can actually leverage the importance of it.
All right. So the next question is from Shivam Sehgal. Sir, I'm in the mechanical and automation branch. Can I get into an IT based product based companies like Amazon, Microsoft, etc., who's from a mechanical branch?
Okay, okay. That's again a very good question. So I'll give you my example in this case. So as I was mentioning, I was an electronics and communication engineer, right? And trust me, I was really bad in coding. I used to just get the pass marks, right? So I always hated coding. But this is, you should never fear that you cannot do something, right? It's just like you need to click on something and then you realize that yes, this is what you're meant for, right? You need to feel that yes, you can do it. Once you have the confidence in yourself, there's no stoppage there. You have to first realize where your core interests are. Don't simply blindly follow the trend that people are rushing towards data science, then yes, I should also rush towards data science. This is a good field, booming field, I'll get a good money there, right? No, you have to look for your interest. You have to understand that yes, this is the field where I can actually excel, right? You have to realize that this is the field where you're meant for. You have to feel that thing. If you get that kick, trust me, there's no stoppage. There are a number of opportunities available. There are a number of things you can learn, and then you can groom your career. So having a mechanical degree, it's not at all relevant here. So it's not a stoppage anywhere. So you should not think about that. You just try to understand whether you're really meant for this or not. You have to answer this. You have to answer this question to yourself. You have to ask this question. You have to understand whether you're really meant for this. You're feeling the data science thing. You know how exactly data scientists work. Then yes, you should go with this. There's no stoppage.
Yes, thank you. And the next question is from Raghav Arora. So this question is basically about how to cover the gap after graduation. So he has some years of gap, I think a 1 year of gap after graduation, and he wants to move into a data analyst or data scientist role. So how can you cope up with the gap after graduation?
Okay, I'm assuming that Raghav has not worked with any organization then yet. He's still looking for a job. In that case, see again, having an year's gap is not an ideal thing, but again, we can still say a number of reasons for that, right? You can have a personal reason, you can have a health reason, you could be having any reason, right? So you can always say that you're looking for a higher education, you're preparing for CAT or GATE or whatever, right? So you should not worry about having a gap in your career. But yes, if you can justify your this gap, then this is very very important. But again, post this, just only justifying your gap is not going to solve your purpose. You need to actually clear the interview as well for data science, right? So use this 1 year of gap to showcase that you were actually learning, right? And you were learning the right things which are going to make you a good data scientist. So you can always leverage this 1 year of time by mixture of couple things. You can always say that I was occupied for some time in some family things, and then you can always say that I was using the other time to groom myself, being a good data scientist. I did this course, and then I feel that I'm a better person today, right? So this could be a way to go.
All right. So two of our learners has asked the same question. They wants to know Giovanna and Vidya. So both of these learners wants to know more about data wrangling.
Hmm. Okay. So, as I was talking about, data wrangling is totally subjective to use case, and I would say bit on data scientists as well. So, as I was mentioning, data wrangling does not really have a fixed set of rules, right? But again, we still have on a broader level, I would say, yes, we check for missing values, we check for outliers, we check for maybe dispersion, we check for patterns. There are a number of things, multicollinearity, autocorrelation. You must have heard about it, right? So again, there is no fixed set of rules. You need to first understand what is your business objective, what is your data, right? And when you know what is your data, you know what could be the potential insights from it. You keep on hunting them, right? So like when we say when like in theoretical aspect, you must have heard about, right? Whenever there is more than 30% of missing data, you drop the column, right? But in some business scenarios, you actually don't do that. Like for example, if I say I know that a particular column is very very important and it has 80% of missing data, I still cannot drop it, right? Then you try to understand what could be the best way to impute the 80% missing value, which is actually very tricky, you know that, right? But you need to understand what could be the right things for you because you know the data, right? So you can take some group buys, take some clusters together, do a clustering on top of it, and then do the imputation. There are a lot of things which you can try. So for data wrangling, it is very subjective. So data wrangling, cleansing, data treatment, we call it anyway, right? So there's a number of terms for that. But the thing is, data wrangling is totally subjective to the person who is actually working on the data set. So you have to get the feel of the data, and based on the hidden trends which is there in your data, you have to take the right steps, right? There is again no fixed rule for anything. You have to understand that acquiring this step would actually solve your business or solve your problem, right? So you have to understand for that. Definitely a few statistical concepts are very important. Like for example, you should know what is multicollinearity, what is autocorrelation, what is kurtosis, what is skewness, what is a mean value imputation, right? There are n number of concepts involved, like from statistics. So if you know all of these concepts, you can actually go ahead and check, okay, what does this mean? Maybe an outlier, you put a blocks plot for all the different variables and check, okay, like I'm seeing 99th percentile variable is over my outlier, right? So it could be n number of things which you can check. Definitely, there's no fixed rule. But yes, when I say no fixed rule, it does not mean that there's no rule, right? There are still few basic checks which you perform for data wrangling, so you can always keep them handy with you and try to understand for different data structures, for example, in PDF, doc, or maybe an XML file, maybe in a CSV, on image data, video data, how we can perform these type of different checks on different data structures. So that should be, your next immediate step. So you can make a list of basic statistical concepts for doing a data wrangling or data cleansing steps, and make it handy and try to practice it and try to understand it on different set of structures data, different data structures. So maybe you can understand and try to realize what could be the real time challenges in that case.
All right. So before we wrap up, I would like to ask Arpit on what is your experience regarding the great learning and regarding throughout your experience in different roles that you went through. So can you please share some of relevant points to our viewers who are watching this video right now?
Great, Nimisha. Yes, I can do that. As I was explaining, as I was introducing myself, if you would have seen that when I joined Great Lakes, I was actually working as a data scientist at that time, right? And before that, also, I was having experience in analytics. But I actually felt that whatever I was doing, I was asked to do that, and right, and I realized that I might not be doing it in the best way I can. So I felt that I don't have the right skill sets in me. That is the reason why I started looking for a course where some experienced person from the same domain can help me learn the core concepts, which I felt was required for me to excel in my career. Right. For that perspective, I felt that the curriculum, I went to the curriculum, which the course which I was planning to go for, and I felt that having the knowledge of all of the key skill sets mentioned in the curriculum, if I really understand the core concept of these, I can make myself a better person the next day, right? So that is the reason why I joined Great Lakes. And while I was doing the course, I realized that it's not actually, again, your technical skills. It's actually how you develop your bonding, how you develop the networks, which is very, very important. So definitely, I was approachable to my. I mean, the faculty members were approachable to me a lot of time. Like whenever I had queries, I just used to drop them an email, and I was getting the revert in within 2 hours. Right. So that was something where I felt that yes, there is someone to whom I can do a two-way communication. I can clear my doubts. That was very, very important for me. That was the whole objective of me to join the course. And then post that, I realized that my peers, my batchmates, my classmates, I would say in that case, are very I would say experienced personnel. They already were working in some of the other domains on a senior profile, bigger profile, right? So I made the right networking in that case. So Great Lakes not only helped me develop my technical skill sets, but also develop the right networking, which actually helped me excel in my career in some or the other way. So I would say that, I mean, from my perspective, technical, your faculty approachability, and then the networking skills. That's what I gained from Great Lakes, and it actually helped me groom myself.
All right. So thank you, Arpit, for this wonderful session. As it is time for winding up this session, I'd like to thank Arpit and all the viewers who have joined and found this session insightful and encouraging. Also, I thank all the viewers who have joined this video and thank you for sharing your valuable opinions and questions. So thank you, Arpit. Thank you all for your time.
Yeah. Thank you, Nimisha. Thank you, everyone.
All right.